Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our afternoon session. eRead Kids Over a Billion Words Read and Counting. Today we've got with us Scott Koenig of Baker and Taylor, and he's going to review for us what eRead Kids is, and then talk about some data to support what's been achieved and what's going to be planned for the future. Just a couple of housekeeping things. We are going to take questions at the end of the presentation via chat. Also, we are recording this session and it will be made available later. So take it away, Scott.
Awesome. Thanks, Sheila. Really appreciate it. I hope everybody's having a great conference. I'm here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I hope you're all still energetic and open to hear all about Kids eReads. I'm very excited to share with you both what it is, for those that don't know, maybe you weren't around a couple of years ago when we launched it, and also for those that do know all about it, to tell you how it's going. I'm also joined by Rachel. Rachel Perry is in the chat. Rachel is from our academic team. So if anybody here is from the academic, from universities, colleges, and so on, she is here as well and very interested to talk to you. So please do use chat to touch with her so that she can reach out to you afterwards and have a conversation. All right, with that said, let me move on. My name's Scott Koenig, as has been said. I've been at Baker and Taylor now for 5 years. Time's gone by really fast. I come from the UK originally. You may hear that in my accent. I came over in 2013, end of 2013. So I've been here a little while. I've worked for Better World Books here in the US as well. My role with Baker and Taylor is to work with libraries on strategic initiatives. So in practice, this usually means connecting our various services in ways that can help you to save money, help you to save resources, and then helping you to sort of power outreach for the library with other services and tools that we have. And I'm not going to spend long on those things today. I'm going to touch on them at the very end of the presentation. But I was excited when sort of reviewing eRead Kids, just how this is very much an outreach tool to reach children with ebooks and e-audio. So let me make sure everything's working. Everything's working, that's great. A button press did something, which is always good news when you're presenting. I'll spend the majority of my time reviewing eRead Kids, like I said, and the collaboration with GPLS to make eRead Kids happen. And by extension, of course, that means all of you. I'll also touch on how we might choose to have a follow-up conversation afterwards to discuss Baker and Taylor and how we can help you to power out of the health crisis. We're very conscious that every library is now beginning to reopen. Many of you are open already, extending your opening hours and trying to find ways to get people back into the library habit. And we think that's the most important thing now. Let's get people back. Let's get them back in the libraries. Let's get them back into the habit of using the library. They've become used to doing things very differently. We all have over the last, what is it now, 18 months, I guess, in total. It's been a long time, that's for certain. So this is a quote I got from Jim Rohn. I hadn't discovered Jim Rohn before putting this presentation together, actually. And shame on me for not having heard of him properly before. Reading is essential for those who seek to rise above the ordinary. He also said, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. And you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of the time with, which I thought was very interesting. I've been thinking about that quite a bit. Who are the 5 people I spend most of my time with? My cat's one of them, so maybe I should exclude the cat and add a human being. And he also said discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. And I think that's probably the quote that best sums up the relationship and this project between GPLS and Baker and Taylor. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. We set off very early on to set some goals for this initiative. So here's a sense of those goals. These are what bubbled up after conversations that we had about what the collection should look like if provided at a kind of state level, to all the libraries of Georgia, so that all the libraries of Georgia could offer a collection of books to the people they serve, whether it's a very small library, rural community, or whether it's a very large library like Atlanta Fulton, right there in the heart of our largest city. We went off and we committed our collection development team. We've got a group of librarians, MLS qualified librarians, who you may or may not have worked with before, to build collections for opening days, and to work with maybe on servicing library collections as well, lease building, all those good things that we do. That same group also build collections for initiatives like this. So they were equipped with circulation data, and in collaboration with Kirkus, they built a list of titles for the project. Kirkus was a really important part of this because we wanted to make sure the collection was diverse, as well as having bestsellers, as well as having sort of popular titles that you'd be used to, and new titles that would be added during the life of the initiative. But we really wanted to make sure that diversity was key for this. And this was maybe 2 years ago now, I think, 2019, that we put this together. So I know diversity is very much the focus of all of us today. There's a lot of conversations going on about how to test our collections and make sure they're diverse. I've got a little piece on that at the very, very end. It's hot off the press. But right back then in 2019, we believed very strongly that this collection for children should be diverse for everybody who lives in Georgia. So having done that and worked on building the collection up, we then set a goal for what accomplishment should look like. That was the scary part, committing to 1 billion words read as our measure of success was quite scary. We didn't know what that might look like, and we didn't know just how well used the collection would be. It largely depends on how each of you would advertise the collection on your websites and in your library, in your physical library, as to how well this collection would get used. But 1 billion words seemed like a really good target to go after when we were setting our objectives at the beginning. I love this video. It's a little kid in China. The video will carry on a bit longer yet. And he's filling his brains up with these books and this education, this knowledge. I'm pretty cool with that. So that caught my attention. It went viral some time ago, and I'd seen it when it went viral. And as I was thinking about what this might mean, this program might mean for children, that's what it meant to me. We all know that some communities are underserved by digital access. We know that some local small libraries in rural communities can't afford to provide their own ebook collections. They can't afford to provide their own e-audio collections. And so something like this would be a tremendous boon for them, for the children they serve, to be able to fill their brains up with knowledge. So that was something we're very conscious of. This was key. This was the big target. And working with Wendy Cornelison, she was very clear about the group that we were going to be going after. So the collection we built reflected these children, this age group, rather than being a broad, right the way through to YA collection. If you've looked at the collection, you'll know it's focused very much on children K through 4, with a few slipping into 6, and some above even, for those advanced readers. But the collection, as you'll see in a minute with some data I've got for you, has been well used broadly across the whole range of the collection that we've built. The next thing I want to mention is the branding of this. And again, I've got some hot off the press stuff for you at the end, because I think more and more it's bubbling to the top, the conversation about how do public libraries represent digital in their own name? How do you brand digital in your name as a public library rather than in the name of us, the vendor? And so very early on, it was clear to me that Wendy and the team were after their own branding. It wasn't going to be called Baker and Taylor Access 360. And that was fine with us. We're a strong believer that our part is to provide you with content, good content on platforms that work. Your part is to take that service and dress it in your branding and present it to the people who you serve. So we ended up with eRead Kids and the bookworm there, which I think looks fantastic. And you now have, after 2 years with the third year just starting, 60,000 e and audio books in this collection to offer up under that branding. Working with GPLS, we also provided the means to be able to put stuff on your Facebook page, marketing links, put links on your website to be able to advertise this service. And I guess one thing to all of you who are on the call today to check when you go back is just how are you promoting eRead Kids? Is there more you could do? Is it at the front and center of what you're doing? Because it's basically a free service to you with a lot of content that you can be sharing with the kids in your community. So here's some data I want to share. There's been almost, I think it's around 200,000 now, circulations in total of ebooks and e-audio since you started the eRead Kids initiative. And you can see here the strength of what's been achieved and the sort of mix of what's been achieved. 76% of the circulation has been with ebooks. I did think about putting 24% e-audio because I think that's actually a more powerful number. But it shows perhaps how the content is being used by parents and by children in the communities that you serve. The youngest age group is 5 to 6, and we're seeing about a 13% share. This is based on metadata for the ebooks and the audio content that we have. So it's not strictly, checking to make sure what is the age of the child that's using the book. It's the age appropriateness of the book according to the publisher, just to be clear about that. So age 5 to 6, 13%, 6 to 7, about 15%, 8 to 9, 27%, and 9 to 11, 35%. So a broad mix of interest there in what we're circulating since we launched. And these, I thought you'd like to see this. This is a sense of the top 3 libraries by circulation so far, who's out in front. They're large libraries, I understand that. Cobb County, they're out in front by some measure. They have 1,448 unique users using eRead Kids and 24,544 circulations. So tremendous job by Cobb County. Forsyth County, they're in second place with 15,773, just 3 circulations when we took the data ahead of Thornton County, and with 785 unique users. So, less unique users using a lot of content over at Forsyth County. And then Fulton with 1,349 unique users and 15,770 circulations. So these libraries are out in front. There's a close battle for second place right now, but everybody is circulating content. And you see here, I couldn't really find a way to put this on the screen properly. If you're interested in your branch, in your circulation, your unique user numbers, please get in contact with me. My email address is at the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy to provide you with your circulation numbers from the initiative as well. I pulled out Flint River here because they were the first libraries I went down the list where I saw a relatively small library, population served about 40,000. I got that off Google, so apologies if I got that wrong, but 40,000 is what it said on Google. 7,000 circulations from 304 unique users. That's a fantastic performance by them. And I think it shows that if you do put the branding up out front and let your users see that this service exists, that you can get fantastic circulation. So again, just a call to action. Do go back and check. Do you need to refresh your eRead Kids links to get people to this content, more easily and quickly? And other data I had, I think, was what else did I have? No, that was it on this slide. Let's go on to the next slide. Top titles, that's what I was going for next. So top titles, we've had a lot of books circulate, but these were the top. The Complete Big Nate, 896 circulated. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, 622 circulated. And The Wrecking Ball, 506 circulated. So those are the top 3 that have circulated. The other Harry Potter titles, they're all in the top 20, with Dogman series not appearing here in the top 3, but also featuring high. And also the Guts book and the Smile book, they did really well as well. So those are the best sellers. Again, I can share that with you. If you want to know the full list of circulation, let me know and I'll email the spreadsheet to you with all of the circulation on it. And this is the number that pleased me the most. As an old, bruised bookseller of many, many years, I've experienced this kind of bestsellerization of ranges. And I'm sure some of you have got alternate views about bestsellers versus range. I was always a range guy in the bookshops in the UK where I used to buy for a large book chain. And when I saw this number, almost 13,000 different titles have been circulated from this collection, it really warmed my heart. Some of the lowest circulation numbers can be like 2 or 3 over the 3 years. They can be very, very low, but they've circulated. And I think that means that that diversity we were after, we've perhaps got to, just in terms of the range of books that been of interest to children and their parents. So I'm very, 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 very pleased with that number. I passed it back to our collection development team and said, well done, guys. That's a tremendous achievement, I think. And there's the number of words we've either had heard or have been read. We set the 1 billion target, and we achieved the 1 billion target after the first year. So that was, a fantastic achievement. We hit the measure that we wanted to hit. And here we are, a year and a half or so, I think, almost 2 years after. And we now have 2.6 billion words read or heard by kids across Georgia. And that's a tremendously, it's a number I'm very excited and happy and proud about, frankly. Well done to all of you for promoting the service and connecting children to these books so they get to read them and improve their literacy and their familiarity with digital content and the way to access digital content. Very, 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 very important, we all know. So what's next? What do we do next? We've managed to have this great success. We want to move on and do more. Certainly Baker and Taylor is interested in what could we do next. Jim Rohn might have said, motivation is what gets you started, habit is what keeps you going. So, if we've had this habit of success we've been talking about, then how do we follow up? What's Georgia's next thing? What's next for the kids in your community that you serve? And Mahatma Gandhi says the future depends on what we do in the present. So I think I want to move on to that a little bit now. I'm not going to spend long on pitching to you all the things Baker and Taylor can do to help you. But there are some very specific things that I think fit this children's outreach piece. And I think having a follow-up conversation with you would be fantastic to keep it moving forward and to build on the success we've had already with eRead Kids. So there's just a few things I pulled out here. Adding school collaboration could be something. We can hook you up with your local school. We're owned by Follett, which means that we have the ability to make connections behind the scenes straight into the ILS. So a child can log on with a student ID to age appropriate content. And then to do that in your name and to make sure that you are called out as providing that content to the child. Because again, what we really want to happen, back to what I said at the beginning of the presentation, is that people come back to the public libraries, people get back into the habit of using the public library. That's the big thing for us at Baker and Taylor. It has to be, that's what we do. We only serve public libraries. So if they don't come to a public library, we have an issue as well, we have a problem. So, we're hoping that if we can add a school collaboration, if we can help you enable students to get access to your content through their ILS, using their student ID to age appropriate content, then that would be something that can build on what you've already achieved with eRead Kids and sort of further expand your outreach into the community. Secondly, building a local collection in your name. So this is something which is beginning to bubble up. New York Public have said to us that they're concerned that they've lost some of the, I guess they would call it authority around their brand being associated with their ebook collection. People who they serve will refer to Libby, but not to New York Public Library, and that's something which they're concerned about. So building a local collection that you can be proud of, that serves your community in your name, is something we'd love to have a conversation with you about as well. Please advertise, eRead Kids. Do go back, have a look, like I've said, at your website, have a look at your social media, have a look in your physical libraries. People come into the library. Are they aware that you have this great service? Remember, it's in your name, not in Baker and Taylor's name. And I'd like to sit down for a meeting, either face-to-face or like this over a screen, whichever you feel most comfortable with. I've been vaccinated twice, so I'm safe to have around, apparently, according to the powers that be. I'd love to meet up and just listen really to what you're trying to do as you come out of this COVID crisis, and see if there's ways we can help you to bring those people back to the library. And sort of in more detail, we can help you in a number of ways across this line of issues we've got here. One of the most exciting things I was excited about, as I said before, the eRead Kids, was that the initiative has its own brand. There's no mention of Access 360, which is our reading platform. And I think I actually made a note over here to remind me to say exactly what New York had said. And their view was that they had outsourced, this is their word for word, outsourced their identity to Libby. So that's something which, you know, we've heard in other places as well. And it kind of leaves you with that thought that the library is not needed in the relationship with a digital patron any longer. And that's a very, very concerning trend. And so, you know, I think all of us who are vendors who serve you with digital products have to find ways to get away from that and get it back to being about your library name, and in your library name. And we're talking to Simply E right now with regards to a number of different initiatives that we have to try and help them to increase their presence and their take-up, I guess you'd say, in the community of libraries. And you'll hear more about that in time. I won't say much more today, but you'll hear more about that in time. And I know that here in Georgia, there's a number of initiatives for a number of libraries, not least GPLS, with Simply E that we are hoping to support and to develop, you know, eRead Kids in that direction as well. We're very excited about that. So, you know, again, I want to have that conversation with you. We'd love to have a meeting to hear what you're trying to do and to explain a little bit more about what I've touched on today in that respect, to see if there's a way we can move forward. We also want to talk to you about building collections that reflect diversity. So we have built for release in July, I think it's July the 21st, is the latest date I've heard, the ability to be able to do a report using Collection HQ on your existing collection, both digital and physical and print. And you don't need to have Collection HQ to do that, but if you do, it's free with Collection HQ. So if you have Collection HQ, be ready. We're going to be able to give you a DEI report so that you can audit your collection around about July the 21st, towards the end of July, maybe even the first week in August, but in there somewhere, you'll be able to do that kind of reporting. If you don't have Collection HQ, we can still run the report for you as a kind of one-off, and we'll charge you for that one-off rather than you having Collection HQ, or you might choose to adopt Collection HQ and know that you don't have to spend the money on a single report from us or other vendors, but instead have it built in for free into Collection HQ. So that's something else I want to touch on. We're going to be doing a lot of work with DEI, and we've been working closely with the ALA, going on their courses to understand, what's expected of us. I don't think anybody wants to be the policeman of DEI, but everybody wants to provide you with the tools that enable you to decide, where are we at, right down to branch level. So pretty exciting stuff. We're enjoying working on it, and we'll come and talk to you more about that when we have some detail. I think I covered all my pieces I wanted to mention there. Workflow savings are the sort of meat and veg, I guess you'd say, of running a public library. Things like CLS, things like e-cataloging, any of those kind of things that you have to do to provide the service you provide to the public. We want to try and save you money there so that you can perhaps reinvest that money on outreach and the kind of other things I've been talking about today. So we're 23 minutes in. I did tell everybody that I would be finishing in good time to give time for questions if you have them. My goal is, like I said, to talk and to listen. I'd love to have a chance to meet. The virtual booth, which is closed right now, will be open after this session, and then I'll be keeping it open on my laptop here tomorrow as well, all day. So if you want to drop into that virtual booth and have a conversation there, we can do that too. Or we can set up a meeting like this over video at any time like in the next few weeks. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I've given you some interesting information there about the success of eRead Kids. And you'll have the video to replay. It's been recorded. But do reach out if you want any of that data. I'll be happy to provide it to you as well. Over to you, I think, Dina.
Hey, Scott. There's a comment in the chat and also a question for you. The first comment, or the comment, is from Homegirl Spice, and she says, the online teen book club was a great idea.
Good.
And then the question is from Megan. She says, as a patron as well as employee, I have an account for Access 360 for myself. However, I want to utilize eReads for my child, but it seems I can't mesh the two accounts. I have to log out of my Access 360 account to log into eReads. Is there a way to be able to use both?
Please take a note of my email address and send me that question there as well direct, so I can help you directly. I'm sure there must be a way to help you do both. I'm surprised it won't let you do that. So I'd like to help you directly, and I'll share the answer with everybody afterwards, but that shouldn't be a thing that shouldn't be stopping you. I'm sure why that's doing it that way. So I apologize you've had that issue. It's designed so you don't have that kind of issue. So please email me so I can help you. So it's on the screen there, scott.koning@baker-taylor.com. And on the book clubs, I didn't mention book clubs earlier on. We've had a great success with virtual book clubs. You can sign up for like 6 months at a time, and we do both print and digital book clubs. And on the digital book clubs, you can attend a video session with the author, where the author talks about the book, and also download like a reading group facilitation page that gives you questions to ask about the book. It's produced by the publisher. And that's, again, something, if you're interested, please use my email me, and I'd love to have a chat with you about that as well. Other questions or comments? I can't see them, Dina, if they're popping up. So please.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's nothing else.
Okay. I'll just give it a few more seconds, and if there are no other questions, we can move on. If I can ask a quick question of the group, is there anybody here from the academic world, from universities or from a college at all? If you can just put in chat for a second, because Rachel might want to say a few words if there is someone to talk to there.
Hey, Scott, we have another question.
Cool.
This is from Stephen Hauser.
Hey, Stephen.
He says, can you elaborate on on your plans with Simply E?
Yeah, sure, I can a little bit, Stephen. It's still a conversation that we're having with Simply E. What they want to do is to continue to improve the experience of using their service. And to do that, they need to be able to have development that is sort of beyond, a little beyond them right now. And so the conversation we're having with them is how we can maybe partner to help them to do that. Because, you know, having talked to some very large libraries about where they're at in their thinking around digital, it seems apparent to us the timing is right to, you know, to explore how we can help, so that, as I said earlier on, we can give libraries back control over the digital content, but primarily their brand to be front and center of their relationship with their users, rather than being a vendor brand. And Simply E can do that. So follow-up question, Stephen, please go for it.
Scott, actually, we have a question from Sheila McAllister. She says, is this with Simply E at NYPL or with Lazarus DPLA group?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And kind of hot off the press, that there has been, I think if you've seen the press lately, there's been some conversations between groups that have previously partnered that maybe aren't partnering to the extent they were before, if I can put it that way. We're not, I don't think we're quite sure how that's going to fall right now. But there's certainly movement in the way that the Simply E product is going to be presented, and who it's going to be presented by, and the partnerships behind it, I think, in the future. So there's more to come, but if you keep an eye on the press, and I don't want to quote it, I'm not going to on my screen here, so I can quote exactly, but there's been some conversations in the press already, in the library press already, that you should look up. but watch this space. It's moving fairly fast, but we don't have anything concrete yet.
Let's see. Stephen Hauser did have a comment back to you. Thanks, Scott. Sounds potentially very promising.
Yeah, we're excited by it. It's just, I think when you have a very large library say to you that they think they've lost a connection with the public because of a vendor, despite the fact the vendor's service is fantastic and very, very good, it's time to sit up and take notice. And they often set the tone for all of us in the industry because of their size. And these are general comments, but comments we can see they're beginning to act upon. So that's interesting to us. Other questions or comments? Okay, well, if there aren't any more, I'd love to give you back some time for your afternoon. And thank you very much for attending. It's great to see a room full of participants. Thank you for coming to listen. For those that came late, we did record the session so you can hear the beginning, the pieces you missed afterwards. And I want to meet you again. So please do reach out and let's sit down around a table and have a conversation. I want to listen. My role is more to listen than anything else. I think there's a lot of change going on in the industry right now as we come out of this health crisis. And we at Baker & Taylor want to be positioned to yes, take advantage of that change, but also to help and to sort of make sure libraries are coming out healthily and growing back quickly to what they were before the crisis. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks all, and thanks, Scott. And I'm going to stop the recording.